It's me, Megan. I used to make videos on this channel, and then I stopped because I ran out of things to talk about. But it's coronavirus now, and I'm unemployed, and I'm bored, and I like video editing, so I decided I'm going to make videos again. So you can watch them or not. I think I'm just going to make videos about whatever I want to talk about, whatever's important to me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have a plan more than that. I just kind of need a project, you know? Need something to work on. So it's going to be this. My original idea was that I would like do my makeup on camera like a beauty guru, but like talk to you about like other things from my life that are really important to me. But turns out that doing your makeup on camera is really hard. Yeah, it's like really hard. So I did it off camera, and I'm just gonna wear makeup because I have no other reason to, because it's the coronavirus. And so I'm just gonna wear makeup, like a lot of it, and then talk about whatever I want to talk about. So that's the plan. Sorry about my hair. It looks kind of weird today because it's 97 degrees outside and 80% humidity, and it's just like not happening. So yeah, things are not happening. I'm also like low-key allergic to makeup, probably because I bought drugstore makeup because I'm broke and I'm on unemployment. So it's fine. I'm happy about it. Everything is so good. So today, I kind of wanted to talk about, not kind of, I affirmatively want to talk about how to tell, or my experience, and hopefully it'll help you tell, if you have a toxic relationship with the outdoors. And when I say outdoors, I mean like outdoor pursuits, which for me is hiking and backpacking and mountain biking and skiing and rock climbing, kind of, but I'm not very good at rock climbing. This red lip, by the way, took me like at least half a year to do, and I feel like it still doesn't look totally good. Like, you're really going for it when you go for a red lip, and like it doesn't always work out, you know? But like, I kind of just wanted a Dita Von Teese moment, and Dita is the queen of red lips, and I also would like to be the queen of red lips. So, okay, so let's talk about having a toxic relationship to the outdoors. So, because I think, you know, there's all that data out there and all this information that says that spending time in the outdoors is something that's good for healing, and that being around nature reduces cortisol levels and reduces stress, and just everyone always talks about how beneficial it is to spend time outside. And so especially during COVID, everybody's getting outside and the hiking trails are much more crowded, and everyone's buying bikes and getting outside, and it's amazing and it's so good. But I think when you mix together the outdoors and the healing aspects of nature with fitness and weight loss, specifically in my experience, but I'm sure there's other ways of making it toxic, it can become toxic. What I want to kind of go through is some of the things that triggered for me a realization that maybe this relationship wasn't, and maybe I wasn't just getting the healing that I wanted out of my time in nature. Maybe I wasn't just having the transcendent experience that I was seeking. Maybe something dark was happening and I needed to deal with it or risk kind of breaking my relationship with the outdoors entirely. So the first thing for me, and I will say that my toxicity is definitely connected to exercise and wanting to be skinny and wanting to be super fit. I also on the side mainly struggle with body dysmorphia and have had pretty severe eating disorders in my past, and so I think that this kind of is related to that. But when I was really getting into backpacking, I would read up about how important it was to carry enough calories and to really like calculate out how many calories you needed to bring, especially if you're going for more than like 2 or 3 days. So when I would go on 4, 5, 6, a week-long backpacking trip, I would calculate out my calories so I made sure I wasn't carrying too much food, you know? Except, coming off of kind of obsessive calorie counting from having an eating disorder, I would underpack. And like, I told myself that I was being reasonable and making sure that I wasn't carrying too much weight, but I think deep down I knew that what I was doing was underfeeding myself in the hopes that I could drop a dramatic number of pounds over the course of a week in the backcountry or 5 days in the backcountry. And so, like, I remember this one backpacking trip I took in New Hampshire in a place called the Wild River Wilderness, which is a beautiful, beautiful place, like beautiful, incredible place. And it was 4 or 5 days. And on the last morning, I woke up and I had one Cliff Bar left. Yeah, I told myself you can't eat the whole thing. You have to eat half of it for breakfast. Half of a Cliff Bar for breakfast. And then I had to hike several miles and several thousand feet to the top of the nearest mountain, at which point I allowed myself to eat the second half of the Cliff Bar. And at that point, I still had like another 5 or 6 miles to hike out down like an undulating ridgeline. So I still had like a lot to get through, and I had absolutely no food left. So if anything had gone wrong, not only was I hungry, and so my mental state was going to be super cloudy, but I had no food with me. So I would not have been prepared to survive at all, which is like a huge mistake. Like, you want to have enough food that if something goes wrong, you can feed yourself for another day. So I think that was kind of one of the moments where I was like, oh, that's not good. So, but I was definitely chronically underfeeding myself on hiking trips and kind of trying to use my time outdoors as a way to get a huge amount of exercise and hopefully drop pounds. And I think along those same lines, I became really into always trying to push myself to hike more miles and to hike faster. And like in New Hampshire, we have the 4,000 footer list. So I like in Colorado, they have the 14ers. In New Hampshire, we have the 4,000 footers. But the trails are really, really rugged and really tough, and just like granite boulder fields and granite staircases. And the trails go straight up the mountain, like you don't get a switchback. And so I would try to push myself to hike these huge days on that terrain. And I became obsessed with like knocking off hills on the 4,000 footers, which is fine. And in a healthy mental state is a really good way to find new hikes. But I was only ever doing really difficult hikes because there was this inner competition in me that I had to be the best, that I had to get more peaks and more hiking and more miles. And then into that mix came Strava and Garmin and data and tracking and knowing that this one was a PR and knowing that this one wasn't as good and knowing that this person is faster than you, and knowing that all my followers on Strava were going to see the hike that I did. And so if they saw that I only climbed a couple hundred feet and that I did a short hike, they would know it wasn't as good as when I hiked 15 miles and climbed 6,000 feet. And so that, it's not to say that Strava is inherently toxic. It's not to say that lists are inherently toxic. But when you're obsessed with performance and obsessed with being better, with pushing yourself, when you're obsessed with perfection, these things become tools to normalize what you're doing, when in fact what you're doing is really not healthy for you. And I found especially like the social aspect of Strava and those other kind of fitness apps, and I'm sorry I keep calling out Strava, like Strava's a great app, I use it all the time, I love it. So, you know, no hate at Strava. This is what I personally did. This is my problem. But knowing that I had those followers on there made me feel like every hike I did had to be better than the last. Like I would go out, or even bike rides, like I would go out to do a recovery bike ride, but would get so caught up thinking that everyone was going to see that my average speed was only 15 miles an hour, and they were going to think that I was like so slow that I would never do a recovery ride. I just wouldn't do it. I would instead, every ride was like race pace, which you can't, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And because of it, I have a ton of chronic injuries, a ton. And now if you're watching this and you're like in your early 20s, you may not be here yet, but it's coming for you if you don't control yourself. I have so many chronic injuries. I have problems in my knees, I have problems in my IT band, I have problems in my hips, and now they're turning into problems in my low back, which are connected to the hips issues. And it's like, I can't, now at 31 years old, I don't progress as much. Even when I back off, even when I don't train as intensely, even when I train smarter and eat smarter, I just don't, I have so many issues in my body because for so long I was underfeeding it and pushing it to go so hard on these really rugged terrain, like on this mountains, and even with rock climbing, like I yanked my arm and my shoulder and like did something to my shoulder and just kept climbing on it. And like, I'm not an elite athlete. There's no reason for me to do that. I'm not training for any competition in rock climbing. I'm a beginner rock climber. Why did I keep climbing on it? Why didn't I just say, hey, I gotta like ice this for a month? Instead I climbed on it and then I had to take 3 months off. So, it's more, I guess, my relationship with my own body and the outdoors being kind of a tool for that. And a place where I had free reign to indulge in my self-loathing and my self-hatred for my body in a way that was like really extreme, because outdoor pursuits, especially among younger people, tend towards more extreme activities, tend towards longer, more intense hikes, tend towards mountain bike racing, tend towards rock climbing extreme pitches. When you're young and your body's capable of these things, it's what you want to do. It's what the culture sort of says is fun. We're all focused on FKTs, fastest known times, and records, and who can do the newest, craziest, wildest thing. That it's easy to become caught up in it even when you're not an elite athlete. And I think that leads me to the one last thing that helped me realize that I was being super toxic, which is comparing myself to other people. And I'm still bad at this. I'm working on it because I don't want it to ruin another one of my relationships. But it's hard. It's really hard. If you're the kind of person who seeks perfection, the kind of person who is able to turn off the voice in your brain that says, ow, that hurts, like, let's slow down. If you're able to just ignore that so much so that you don't hear it. And then you see someone who's better than you, who's faster than you, who's stronger than you, who can climb more than you, who can mountain bike more technical trails than you, you start to feel like you're a failure. You start to feel like you're not good enough and that you should be there now. That never mind that you can progress to that place. You are supposed to be there now. The first time you try something, you're already supposed to be good at it. The second time you try it, you should even be even better. Like, every time should be better than the last. There's no such thing as a bad day, an off day. It can't happen. And when you're riding with somebody else and they're faster than you, you have this negative talk in your head going and going and going and saying, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And it really can suck all the joy out of the experience. And I do it with people all the time, and I do it on those Strava apps. I'm always comparing myself, and you'll see someone's name who you don't even know on a leaderboard and be like, I'm gonna get that person. Like, I don't even know that person. Why do I care? And I think a little bit of competition is good because it keeps you motivated, it keeps you fighting hard. But when it becomes an obsession and when it starts to ruin interpersonal relationships, you might have something of a toxic relationship with. So what? So now I've just pointed out all these problems that maybe you relate to, and you're thinking fuck. Yeah, that's me. I have a bad relationship with the wilderness. No, it's fine. I'm pulling myself out of it. I wouldn't say that I've fixed it completely, but I have found a few things that if you have that same need to strive for perfection as me, if you have that same need to compare yourself to other people all the time, if you have that same obsession with data and with your stats and with seeing constant improvement, there's a couple things I've found that help me kind of cope. And one of them is turning off the app. Just go out and do an activity just for the sake of doing it. Even if it's a killer ride, don't turn on the app. Don't. Or delete it when it uploads. But mostly don't turn on the app. Don't track yourself. Give yourself permission to just do something just to do it. You can listen to your body and it'll tell you if it's tired, if it wants more. You can enjoy something just because you're doing it and not because you got a PR or you got on a leaderboard or you kept your heart rate in a certain zone or whatever it is. If you have an unhealthy relationship with that data, I would encourage you to take that step. The other thing that I've been able to do when I'm getting really hyper-focused on these things is to intentionally do some activity that is really low impact for me. So I was talking earlier about how obsessed I became with the 48 4,000 footers in New Hampshire. This was a big one, and I'm still kind of working through this, but going on hikes that don't hit any peaks, going on hikes that just explore valleys and maybe just go over like a low height of land, but don't aim for the peaks. Don't aim to do as much as possible in a weekend. You know, bring a book with me and a notebook and hike into some campsite that's really beautiful and spend time soaking in a river and just being in nature and remembering the benefit of moving slowly through the world. That not everything has to be fast. That it can be even more of a joyous experience if you take your time, if you go on an easy bike ride, if you just kind of hang out with your friends at the rock wall instead of climbing every single pitch. That, for me, has been a big part of overcoming my need to always excel in the wilderness, in the outdoors. And then, lastly, and this one's even harder, but take a break. Like a long break. Like, don't do anything for a week except go for a walk. Like, oh my god, even now just thinking about it, I'm like, no, oh my god, I'm going to lose all my fitness. But in a week you won't. And you'll feel so much better. And you can come back to it with a fresh outlook and try not to harm yourself when you go into the outdoors. So, it's pretty much what I have for y'all. I hope that was interesting if anybody watches it. I hope that was interesting. This is kind of what I'm going to do. I'm just going to like think about things that are important to me. It could be like eating disorders and that kind of stuff. It could be like, women's sexuality and like discovering your sexual self. I haven't decided if I'm going to create a separate channel to talk about that or if I'm going to just talk about it on here or, how I'm going to do that. But you don't care. So I hope you enjoyed watching this. Gosh, it feels weird to be like, I'm trying to be a YouTuber. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this. And if you did, you can subscribe to my channel and be one of my very first subscribers. And when I'm really huge and famous, you can say, I've been here since 45. Just kidding, I have no interest in being really huge and famous. That was teenager Megan wanted that real bad. But yeah, I hope you liked it. Please subscribe if you liked it, or like the video, or leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought, because those make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Yeah, that's about it. Bye.